Welcome to the Awesome Pod Mix. You are listening to Abby. The idea behind this podcast was to talk about how certain movies and TV shows made me feel when I watched them for the very first time. A reputed filmmaker once said, when a piece of art invokes a similar feeling amidst a large audience, it's the triumph of the filmmaker. That's the magic of cinema. I love the magic of cinema. Today, I'll be talking about Sanjay Leela Bhansali's Devdas. It's classic, romantic, tragic, and cinematic. The film is a tribute to the genius of Sarat Chattopadhyay, P.C. Barua, and Bimal Roy. The movie's story is based on Sarat Chattopadhyay's novel of the same name. The screenplay is written by Prakash Kapadia and Sanjay Leela Bhansali. The dialogue is by Prakash Kapadia and the movie is directed by Sanjay Leela Bhansali. Vikramaditya Motwane, one of the notable filmmakers today, shares the credit for one of the associate directors and for sound design alongside Kunal Sharma. We've heard stories that during the making of the film, the city of Bombay ran out of generators because most of them were being used to light up the enormous set of Devdas. I'm sure it's a true story. The film begins with a high-note celebration of the news that Devdas is returning after 10 years. We learn that Dev and Paro are childhood friends. Paro has lit a diya in Dev's name and awaits his return. Paro's intro is with the song Silsila ye Chaahat ka na maine bujhne diya. Paro is not gonna let this diya blow off. When Devdas chooses to meet Paro before his mother Kaushalya, she feels envious. When Paro gets to know that Dev is at the door to see her, she rushes into her room feeling shy. Dev steps into Paro's room but Paro doesn't show her face. A bumblebee is troubling Paro. Dev comes in and says, "Kaimon acho Paro? बहुत दिनों बाद मिले हम. पलट के देखोगी नहीं मेरा चेहरा?" Paro reminds Dev of how much time has passed down to the minute since he left. Toward the end of the scene, Devdas catches the bumblebee and says, "Paro, तुम्हें कोई और छुए मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगता." Damn, he's so possessive. Kaushalya is upset, but Devdas wins her over with his charm. When Devdas inquires about his father's absence, we learn that Devdas has been traumatized by the lack of his father's affection toward him. Badi inquires if Dev brought a good foreign wristwatch for her. Dev responds, "नहीं, पर अच्छा वक्त लाया हूँ." Or the optimism with which Dev is filled. Paro tries to get a sneak peek of Dev through her binoculars. Dev comes to Paro's house in the middle of the night just to see her face. I know everyone raves about how beautiful and perfect Aishwarya looks in the film, but I can't take my eyes off Shah Rukh. This sort of a meet cute moment is something else. Paro is asleep next to the burning diya. Dev gets exceptionally close to her and blows air onto her face. Paro turns and is about to burn her hand in her sleep, but Dev places his hand over the burning diya without flinching. Ultimately, when Paro puts her hand over to the other side, Dev realizes the burning sensation from the diya and pulls his hand away. He touches the wick of the diya and places a small black dot on Paro's lips as he looks over the moon. Paro smiles in her sleep and wakes up realizing it wasn't a dream. When she looks around, Dev is nowhere to be found. The following day, Paro arrives at Dev's house with a plate covered by flowery fabric. Paro enters Dev's room, removes the knitted sweater, places it on Dev's back and gauges her measurement. Dev asks, "आज चांद जमीन पर कैसे उतर आया?" Paro replies, "तुम्हारे होश उड़ाने." I love it when Dev asks, "ये क्या है?" Paro responds, "थाली." Dev is like, "थाली है, मुझको भी मालूम है, लेकिन इसमें है क्या?" Paro says, "बहाना." Dev thinks, "मेरे लिए संदेश है." Paro says, "देख लो." Dev reacts surprised. "ये तो खाली है." Paro laughs, "इसीलिए तो बहाना है बुद्धू." Devdas throws away the empty thali. Paro reacts, "उरी बाबा एत्तो राग, रूठना तो कोई तुमसे सीखे देव, बिल्कुल वैसे के वैसे ही हो." Dev retorts, "तुम भी तो बिल्कुल वैसी की वैसी ही हो." Paro asks, "कैसी?" Devdas replies, "Gawar." Paro is like, "Yeah, of course, we don't match up to your high standards anymore because you've been to London." Devdas explains what it's like in London and what made him miss his home and family. Paro inquires if Dev ever missed her. Devdas, being a brat, says, "तुम्हारी कभी याद नहीं आई पारो? बात तो वो याद रहती है पारो जिस बात में कोई बात हो, लेकिन तुम में तो कोई बात ही नहीं है ना?" Paro responds, "सच कहा देव, बात तो सिर्फ तुम में है. तुम में इतनी बात है कि तुम्हारी लिखी चिट्ठियां मैं दिन में 5 बार पढ़ती थी." Dev reacts with an expression that this girl really loves me. Every time Paro asks Dev a math question, he fails to answer. Paro taunts, "Hisab ke bade kache ho tum." Dev stops Paro and confesses that there was this one instance when he really missed her. "Jab jab main saans leta tha tab tab." Dev goes on to say that it was mighty easy for Paro to point out how much she missed him. कितनी आसानी से गिनवा दिया कि तुम्हें हर पल मेरी याद आती थी, लेकिन ये नहीं सोचा कि उन पलों में बीतता तो मैं ही था। दिया तुम जलाती थी, पर जलता तो मैं ही था। क्यों? Paro reacts, "Ish." What an argument. Very smartly written. But Devdas is also invalidating Paro's complaints and feelings. "I know you're trying to be cute, but it's coming across like her struggles mean nothing to you." Paro shouldn't be questioning her actions or sanity. "Dev, with all my love, I have to say you are not evolved enough, nor do you take accountability for your carelessness." Dev and Paro's interaction is interrupted when Sumitra calls for Paro. Paro leaves and Dev says, 87,600. That's the total number of moments to Paro's question. I love this scene because it not only showcases how entitled Devdas is, but it also shows that despite her love, Paro is not afraid to call Devdas out on his arrogant behavior. Paro's family is pro-Dev and Paro's relationship, while Devdas's family is totally against it. Badima presents a special Kangan to Dev for his would-be bride. I like that Badima is the only person in Dev's family who accepts Dev and Paro's relationship. Dev presents the Kangan to Paro. Paro insists that Dev help her wear it. Dev is like, "Paro is already sporting so many bangles." "एक बात बताओ देव, लंदन कहाँ है?" "पश्चिम में." "सूरज कहाँ डूबता है?" "पारो, पश्चिम में." "क्या लंदन में सचमुच सूरज 5 घंटे देरी से उगता है?" "हाँ, वो तो है, इसलिए तुम सब कुछ देरी से समझते हो." "हाँ, वो तो." Paro pokes fun at Dev and calls him विदेशी गवार and बुद्धू. I love the song. बैरी पिया बड़ा बेदर्दी. Devdas throws a deck of cards at Paro's face. Paro trips him over. Devdas tries to make Paro wear the Kangan. She uses this opportunity to get back at him. Paro throws a deck of cards in Dev's face. Devdas reacts and pulls Paro's tresses. Devdas turns to leave. Paro runs behind, apologizing that she's ready to wear the Kangan. Devdas flings her hand away. Paro suggests she is prepared for punishment, but Devdas fails to smack Paro's hand. Finally, she shuts her eyes, folds her hands ready to be hit. But Dev places the Kangan on Paro's folded hands. He pulls her to a table where they both sit like two naive kids in love. Dev tries very hard to make her wear the Kangan, but he falls back. Paro removes the bangles from her wrist. Dev plays with the Kangan like a juggler and it slips and lands on the leaf of the water lily in the pool. Paro picks up the Kangan, offers it to Dev to help her wear it. Dev puts the Kangan aside and pretends to read Paro's palm. I love this moment because it foreshadows what's supposed to happen next in the movie. Dev cleans Paro's palm with the sleeve of his shirt to read her palm lines more clearly. He predicts, "You'll have a lot of money, but you'll be married to an old man." Dev gives Paro a low five. She turns the same hand upside down to read Dev's palm and predicts, "You will not even get married." Devdas twists Paro's arm to make it hurt. Devdas complains that Paro's wrists have swollen and the Kangan won't fit. Paro pulls the pin and the Kangan opens up to be worn. Dev realizes how stupid he was. Dev helps Paro wear the Kangan. Dev and Paro sit on the swing looking into each other's eyes and holding each other's hands. Dev presents another Kangan but Paro shies away, resting her head on his chest. I want to rest my head on the side of Shah Rukh's heart so I can listen to his heartbeat. Dev kisses Paro on the forehead. I love Shah Rukh. I would like that very much. Shah Rukh is love personified. No wonder he's the king of romance. These moments show that their love for each other may have been since they were kids, but it's still very nascent. Shah Rukh and Aishwarya make you believe in the Dev-Paro love story. Otherwise, Dev comes across as smug and his love is toxic at best. The following moonlit night, Dev and Paro are by the waterfall. Paro is filling her earthen pots with water. Dev is around just to romance Paro. The song More Piya begins. Paro is pricked with a thorn in her foot. Instead of removing the thorn, Devdas is being all kinds of mischievous. Dev is being a total tease with his actions. Finally, Dev removes the thorn from Paro's foot. Dev and Paro hug and their romance peaks as the song reaches its crescendo. These moments solidify the love story between Paro and Dev. It also portrays how Devdas enjoys inflicting pain upon others, even if it is the woman he supposedly is in love with. Post the song, Kaushalya not only refuses Sumitra's proposal for Paro and Dev's union, but she also humiliates Sumitra for her status and low caste. The situation escalates. Sumitra accuses Kaushalya of turning a blind eye and a deaf ear toward Dev's love for Paro. Sumitra vows to wed her daughter Paro in the next 7 days in a more affluent family than Kaushalya's. Will anyone ask what the lovers want? Finally, toward the end of the scene, Sumitra curses, I wanted you to be blessed with a grandson, but now I want you to have a granddaughter. Since the novel was published on 30th June 1917, maybe they believed that having a daughter was not a blessing, but of course they were wrong. When Paro meets Dev in the middle of the night to ask him what he wants concerning their relationship, he makes trivial excuses. My reaction was, you have no standing of your own. This girl loves you and wants to spend the rest of her life with you, but you have no spine to support her. She's put everything on the line for you and you don't even love her enough to stand up for her. हिसाब के ही नहीं प्यार में भी बड़े कच्चे हो तुम देव. I can't believe everyone is questioning Paro's intent to meet Devdas in the middle of the night. All of them accuse her of sleeping with Devdas. You can accuse Devdas also for the same. Even if she slept with Dev, they love each other and they are two consenting adults. Grow up, people. She's not going to wait for an appropriate time to discuss things after such a big fiasco. She had to take the reins of her life into her own hands. Dev pleads the case of his and Paro's love in front of his father and loses. Dev leaves his house for good after this argument with his father. Devdas writes a letter to Paro indicating that they should forget their love for each other. Why would you do this to her, Dev? Why? Also easier said than done. Paro burns the letter to ashes. You go, girl. It's a sorry excuse of a letter. It doesn't hold any power over you. This letter can't force you into putting an end to your love for Dev. You do that on your time. After a good 1 hour 8-minute mark, we are introduced to Chandramukhi. Chandramukhi applies ittar looking in the mirror. She stops in her tracks with just one glance at Dev in the mirror. Chandramukhi turns to look at Dev. She flicks her hair and the force with which she flicks her hair shatters the mirror. She walks up to Dev holding the ittar bottle. Dev says, आपके घर का आईना हमारी सूरत न देख सका. नुकसान हो गया आपका. This dialogue reflects Dev's self-esteem. शाहरुख के लिए तो ऐसे 100 आईने कुर्बान. When Chandramukhi's younger sister-like figure suggests she should apply coal to ward off the evil eye, Devdas smirks. Devdas explains that a courtesan wants everyone's attention. She wants everyone to look at her and only her. Chandramukhi shakes the ittar bottle and applies it on Dev's neck. She says, "You नजर की बात की और दिल चुरा गए. हम तो समझे थे बुद्ध, आप तो धड़कन सुना गए." Madhuri has this great ability of raising one of her eyebrows and keeping the other one down and steady and switching between them effortlessly. I've learnt many things watching Madhuri during my growing up years. I can try and imitate her acting, her dance moves, her expression, her grace, her smile, but I can never replicate this. Chandramukhi dances on the song Kaahe Chhed Chhed Mohe. Dev catches Chandramukhi's dupatta that's smacking him in the face over and over again. At that moment, the song lines are Dhai Sham Rok Lai, Rok Lai, Rok Lai, because he stopped the dupatta from smacking him. Chandramukhi's Ish reminds Dev of Paro. Dev realizes he made a huge mistake writing that awful excuse of a letter and wants to return to Paro. He's clearly come back to his senses. When Chandramukhi stops Devdas, he tells her to acknowledge that she's a woman. He says, औरत माँ होती है, बहन होती है, पत्नी होती है, दोस्त होती है, और जब वो कुछ नहीं होती तो वो तवायफ होती है. देवदास नारायण मुखर्जी, I object. बहुत छोटी सोच है आपकी. A woman doesn't need any relationship to define who she is. Dev tells Chandramukhi that she can do better and live a better life. He pays her for the time they spent together. Devdas wants Chandramukhi to get out of this rut, but he's not using the right words to encourage her. He's ridiculing and shaming her. Chandramukhi is unaffected by the ridicule. Devdas leaves. Chandramukhi tells Chunni Babu, "Kitni bekarari hai un aankhon mein." Well, Chandramukhi, I can't blame you for falling in love with Dev because Shah Rukh's eyes are the windows to his soul. All one wants is to dive deep into his eyes and live there for all eternity. Fine, not all, just me. Dev arrives at Paro's house on her wedding day with those puppy eyes asking, Kaki Ma, Paro hai. Devdas claims he's back and wants to spend the rest of his life with Paro. Paro is not buying a single word coming out of Devdas's mouth. She is hurt. She wants answers for the betrayal and breach of faith. Before this, Devdas was not thinking clearly. He was consumed by rage and felt helpless. Paro doesn't have time for Dev's naivety. He refuses to accept that Paro is getting married to someone else. Paro reminds Devdas that he doesn't own her. She is not some piece of property, even though he believes otherwise. Paro is a living, breathing person. If anything happens against Devdas's wishes, he hits Paro. That's been his pattern since they were kids. Girl, if he hits you, run, run like the wind. You deserve better, not this toxic excuse of a lover. Devdas still doesn't see the error of his ways. He misinterprets Paro's hurt for arrogance. Devdas, you have no qualities. I wonder what Paro saw in you and fell in love with you. I'm talking about a younger Devdas before he grew up to look like Shahrukh. Devdas takes the pearl necklace from Paro's hand and smacks her with it. Why? I mean, I know why, but still. He wanted Paro to have a similar scar like the moon. He then breaks the pearl necklace and the pearls scatter across the floor. The blood gushing from Paro's forehead flows to the partition of the hair wherein one applies vermilion to marry someone. Devdas slides the flowing blood further back to the partition which signifies that he married her. Tears roll down Paro's face. Sumitra is appalled to see the fresh wound on Paro's flawless face. Dev tries to leave but Paro grabs his arm and stops him. The song Hamesha Tumko Chaha plays. After Paro's other wedding rituals are completed, she walks up straight to Dev. He tries to make her wear the Kangan, forgetting to remove the pin. Both of them laugh with tear-filled eyes. I can't watch Shahrukh crying because when he cries, I cry. Like Bakshi Saab is beautifully written in one of Chandni's songs. Aansu tere nikle dil mera roye. चोट लगे तुझको तो दर्द मुझे होए. As corny and cheesy it may sound, it is what it is. What's even more painful is to watch Dev shoulder Paro's palanquin. In the next scene in his mansion, Devdas lights up his own room on fire. All of his family members react worried. Sumitra yells from her patio. Every story has two acts. In the Indian movies, it's pre-interval and post-interval. Sumitra and her daughter Paro suffered pre-interval, but now the tables have turned. This is the interval point. Post the interval, everyone talks about the night of separation, but it's going to be a long night because Dev and Paro's relationship is over. Paro's world spins with a dolly zoom shot when she learns she is now a mother to 3 grown-up children. As I mentioned before, Dev and Paro's night of separation will last forever. Devdas is so dismissive of Chandramukhi's affection, care and concern. He throws money at her as if he can pay her for her empathy and hospitality. Devdas doesn't even know the first thing about love. Chandramukhi still wants Dev Babu to visit her because he owes her 2 nights. Why do you want him, Chandramukhi? Don't bet your life and freedom on Devdas. Of course he turns up when we least expect him to. The song Maar, Daala plays. I want to give a special mention to Kavita Krishnamurthy for lending her voice to some musically challenging songs and performing them to absolute perfection. When the song is almost toward its end, we hear the wedding music which triggers Dev into a frenzy and drinking alcohol. Devdas drinks, sheds some tears and faints. This is his first step towards self-destruction. Chandramukhi questions. अभी पीनी शुरू की है. क्यों पीते हो इतनी कि बर्दाश्त ही ना कर पाओ? Devdas blows off a burning candle with his bare hands. Shahrukh delivers the most famous line in all its glory. कौन कमबख्त बर्दाश्त करने को पीता है? हम तो पीते हैं कि यहाँ पर बैठ सकें, तुम्हें देख सकें, तुम्हें बर्दाश्त कर सकें. Chandramukhi's eyes start welling up. Devdas continues. बेहोश हो सकें, पारो को भुला सकें. लेकिन चंद्रमुखी एक पारो की याद है जो हमें होश भी नहीं खोने देती. क्यों इतना पीने के बाद भी उसकी याद हमें सताती है दिन रात? क्यों इतना नासमझ हो जाता है इंसान? क्यों गलती कर बैठता है? क्यों एक छोटी सी गलती की इतनी बड़ी सजा मिलती है? क्यों कि जिंदगी के रास्ते अलग हो जाएं. एक चला जाए शादी के रास्ते पर और He wants to say barbadi ke raaste par, but he doesn't. As he's questioning his questionable life choices, he starts to break the alcohol bottles one by one. As Devdas walks out, he compares Chandramukhi to Kagaz Ke Phool, which is a 1959 movie directed by Guru Dutt. When Chandramukhi lends Devdas some support, he doesn't like it. He doesn't even let her touch him. रोज होती है इस मोहब्बत के केस की सुनवाई. I object. Objection overruled. तुम दोषी हो. Devdas here is judge, jury, executioner. He sentences himself to suffering and death. He walks, stumbles and falls to the ground. Chills, literal chills. My admiration for Shah Rukh's craft increased leaps and bounds after revisiting this film. His performance is so nuanced and composed. Paro's adoptive daughter Yashomati's husband Kali Babu is the guy we met at Chandramukhi's mehfil. He inappropriately touches Paro's feet and cops a feel. What a jerk! Paro twists his ear to teach him a lesson. Paro is not to be messed with. She's a smart woman. She can think on her feet, literally. The romantic scenes between Dev and Chandramukhi are lit AF. Chandramukhi refers to Devdas as Parasmani or the Philosopher's Stone. Parasmani is a 1963 movie directed by Babu Bhai Mistry. It features the song Hasta Hua Noorani Chehra. Chandramukhi thinks of herself as iron waiting to be turned into gold with a touch of Parasmani. The romance between Chandramukhi and Devdas comes to a halt when Devdas learns of his father's demise. Devdas arrives at his father's funeral service. Paro is appalled to see Dev's condition. Paro rushes to tend to a fallen Dev. Dharamda reveals how Devdas is now an alcoholic and lives in a courtesan's home. Dharamda begs Paro to persuade Devdas to quit drinking and stop visiting Chandramukhi. Dev returns Paro's trinkets back to her, her anklet, her vase and her shawl. Paro requests Devdas to quit drinking. Devdas promises to quit drinking if Paro would elope with him. Of course, Paro cannot comply. Devdas promises to visit Paro before his death. When Devdas's brother and his wife devise a plan to steal the wealth from the safe, Devdas catches them red-handed. He threatens to light the office on fire if they don't comply with his wishes to return the safe keys to his mother. When Devdas's mother arrives at the office, she acknowledges and accepts that they are equally responsible for pushing Devdas towards self-destruction. The mother asks Devdas to leave the mansion. A hurt Devdas says, बाबूजी ने कहा गांव छोड़ दो, सब ने कहा पारो को छोड़ दो, पारो ने कहा शराब छोड़ दो, आज तुमने कह दिया हवेली छोड़ दो, एक दिन आएगा जब वो कहेगा दुनिया ही छोड़ दो. Paro visits Chandramukhi to meet her and collect the courtyard's earth for Durga's idol. I love Madhuri's performance in this scene. When Paro accuses Chandramukhi of destroying Devdas's life and offers to pay to let Devdas go, Chandramukhi retaliates saying, "What is it that you can offer me?" क्या दे सकती हैं आप हमें? समाज में इज्जत दिला सकती हैं? देव बाबू की नजरों में हमारे लिए प्यार जगा सकती हैं? उन्हें एक बार छूने का अधिकार दिला सकती हैं? वो सपने, वो इंतजार, वो उम्मीदें जो देव बाबू ने हमारे दिल में जगाई हैं, क्या आप उन्हें पूरा कर सकती हैं? कर सकती हैं? नहीं, आप ये नहीं कर सकती पारो, और हम आपको देव बाबू नहीं दे सकते. Chandramukhi is so powerful in this scene. She doesn't pay heed to any ridicule Paro throws at her. Paro rushes to get Devdas from Chandramukhi's room, but she is shocked to see the room empty. Chandramukhi reveals that Dev is everywhere, from the light burning in the lamp to the crease of the sheets to his fragrance in the air. If Paro can take it all away, she is more than welcome. Paro realizes that Chandramukhi truly loves Dev. I just don't like it when Chandramukhi says she worships Dev. Paro is more than happy to learn that Dev is not alone and has found a companion in Chandramukhi. Paro hands over the Kangan after she receives Chandramukhi's courtyard's earth. It kills me to see Dev longing for Paro. He is aware that Chandramukhi loves him, but Dev is on his own path of self-destruction. In the next scene, Dev requests the priest to conduct the rituals for his own funeral service. When the priest refuses, Devdas mutters the mantras and performs the ritual himself. The song Dola Re Dola begins. One tiny detail in the lyrics that I appreciate is that Chandramukhi sings "Bandh ke main ghungaru" because she is a courtesan, while Paro sings "Pehen ke main payal" because she always wore anklets, one of which Dev stole when he was a child. The song celebrates these two women and their shared love for this unlucky loser of a man, Devdas. Kali Babu humiliates both Paro and Chandramukhi, revealing Chandramukhi's secret. Chandramukhi is not hesitant to expose Kali Babu's visit to the courtesans. Chandramukhi reiterates, तवाइफ के आंगन की मिट्टी मिलाकर ही दुर्गा की मूर्ति उभरती है और ये मिट्टी इतनी कमजोर नहीं. Chandramukhi slaps Kali Babu in the face. Kali Babu reveals the truth about Dev and Paro's relationship to her husband and mother-in-law. Paro accepts her relationship with Dev. She compares it to her husband's relationship with his deceased wife. But patriarchy always finds a way to accuse and punish the woman. Paro is not permitted to leave the mansion again as retribution. The mother-in-law tries to blow off the burning flame of Dev's diya. Paro stops her. It's a delight to see Shahrukh dance to the song Sheeshe Se Sheesha Takaraye. Devdas' condition starts to deteriorate toward the end of the song. Alcohol is poison for Devdas. He doesn't have much time left to live. Devdas notices Chandramukhi sporting the same Kangan he had presented to Paro. He inquires if Chandramukhi met Paro. If she did, what did she think of her? Chandramukhi has only praises for Paro. Dev compares his two eyes to Paro and Chandramukhi, though this line is ADR'd. What's with men comparing to women like this? Chandramukhi says that everyone loves Paro. Dev interjects saying, no one loves you except for me. Chandramukhi can't believe her luck. She reacts surprised and walks toward Dev. Dev is standing with his arm extended toward Chandramukhi. She gets to feel and experience the love Dev has for her. She caresses Dev's face as tears roll out. Dev compares Chandramukhi to a melting flame. Who wouldn't melt in the arms of Shahrukh? Remember the song? Teri baahon mein mar jaye hum. Yeah, I need therapy, shut up. Dev seeks permission from Chandramukhi to meet Paro. It's his only dying wish. Chandramukhi wants to accompany Dev, but Dev is not strong enough to make Chandramukhi witness the pain of his death. They hug. Dev promises to meet her in the afterlife. Dev's condition worsens on his way to meet Paro. When Dev sips his last drink, the short cross dissolves into the fuel fire that moves the train. Dev coughs out blood. Paro falls to the ground. Her forehead wound becomes fresh again and blood oozes out. The Royal Express halts at Pandua near Manikpur. Dev reminisces about his promise to meet Paro and a tear rolls down his cheek. Dev gets down at Pandua station to meet Paro. Dev's life starts to flash before his eyes. He is running out of time. When the chariot driver asks Dev who he needs to meet in the town, Dev mutters Paro's name. In her mansion, Paro wakes up startled as if she heard Dev calling out to her. The chariot driver drags Dev's body over to the round platform surrounding the tree. The town people gather around Dev. Paro inquires about the crowd and learns that someone is dying, oblivious that it's her Dev. Dev's lifeless hand drops and in the intercut one end of Paro's sari covering her head drops. Paro offers flowers to the deity's idol and the flowers from the tree fall over Dev's feet. Dev's vision is blurred and he mutters Paro's name again. Mahendra, Paro's adoptive son, checks Dev's identification with his name tattoo Dev and Paro's Pa, some letters and Paro's pearl necklace. Some person helps Dev drink some water. When Paro learns that Dev is right outside her mansion breathing his last, she runs with all her might to reach Dev, but Paro's family shuts the mansion's doors. Dev sees a blurry vision of Paro approaching. When the mansion's doors shut, Dev utters his final words Paro as he breathes his last. Dev's diya flutters in the wind and extinguishes on its own. The diya is a metaphor for Dev's life. Paro has done everything in her power to keep the diya burning and shining bright. Now the diya extinguishing is symbolic of Dev's death. It kills me to watch any character played by Shahrukh die on screen. He dies on screen, I die on the inside. It's also poetic. Death is not just a word. It's the last stop in the fog of hopelessness and despair. In the film, it's not the end of Dev's pain and suffering. He was never strong to begin with. He was entitled and flawed. His fragile ego led him toward his impending doom. He just gave up on life. He was helpless and incompetent. He chose to drown his sorrows in alcohol. The path of Dev's self destruction resulted from Dev's dashed hopes and his immediate family's decisions forced upon him. This further forced him to make terrible decisions. I was told bad decisions make good stories. Without Paro in his life, Dev's existence was meaningless. He didn't stand up for the one person he claimed was the love of his life. He didn't put up a fight to tilt the scales of fortune in his favor. If in a story a woman is treated terribly, it turns out to be a tragedy. That's the reason Devdas dies a tragic death. Respect women, don't be a Devdas, drink responsibly. Only time can heal a broken heart. You can listen to the awesome pod mix and subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. If you like what I am doing, you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/awesomepodmix. Thanks for listening.